Welcome back, everyone. This is Austin Reville here at 2FC Tactical to talk about something that was kind of exciting out of Washington, D.C., which seems like a contradiction in terms, of course, as always. But we're talking about the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals overturning Washington, D.C.'s magazine restrictions. So let's dive into the video today. All right, everyone, so we're going to dive into the Benson versus United States court case out of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, Mr. Benson has had some issues with Washington, D.C., where he was found in possession of a magazine greater than 10 rounds, which is something that Washington, D.C. restricts, as well as an unregistered firearm and a few other things. So he was suing on Second Amendment grounds, whether this was constitutional or not. It's kind of an exciting case for us in the Second Amendment community because it is overturning the magazine ban that Washington, D.C. has put in place over there. Now, before we get into this, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you don't mind going over to the Rumble channel and hitting a thumbs up over there, as well as, again, put your comments. We try to get to all of them. We love the comments. It also helps the algorithm in YouTube to show you more content from us because it's more interactions. If you'd like to support the channel, go over to Patreon. And as always, we do thank our channel sponsor, Patriot Mobile, and we'll have more about them here in a minute. But what we're talking about today is Benson versus the United States. Now, this opinion was written by Judge Dahl. I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. He was is the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals judge appointed by President Trump back in 2020. He was in the 2-1 majority, writing that magazines such as these, carrying more than 10 rounds, are ubiquitous in modern society, meaning that they're in common use. There's hundreds of millions of these things in circulation, where we here in the gun community would call this a standard capacity magazine because that's what it is. This is what comes standard with your firearm. It's actually something if you want something smaller, you have to special request that, or there's special models for those, 8 terrible states plus the District of Columbia, broadly speaking, that do not allow guns to carry more than 10 rounds. But generally speaking, most of us get our guns standard. So that was the whole point of his opinion, was talking about the fact that you cannot say that these are not in common use. And since you can't say that it's not in common use per Heller, therefore the government's burden is to show some kind of historical analog of why this restriction should stand, and they could not find one. Quick pause in the video, guys, to give a shout out to our channel sponsor, Patriot Mobile. Now, I've personally been a member of Patriot Mobile for several years now. Everyone is using a cell phone these days. So the question is, why not support someone who supports you, who stands up for the rights that you and I hold dear? And Patriot Mobile puts their money where their mouth is by donating a portion of every dollar they make to the causes that you and I hold dear. They use the same 5G networks that every other major provider uses. You're not sacrificing service. You're supporting a company that will support you. They're going to give our listeners a special discount. Using the code SHALLNOT and clicking the link down below, you will get a free month when you switch to Patriot Mobile. With that, let's get back to the video. And I think that's what we should talk about a little bit here, and then dive into the aftermath. Because, a lot of you who watch this channel are from Minnesota, and you're going like, well, how does this tie in? So let's dive into that. But when it comes to this case, the great thing about this case was that D.C. versus Heller and New York Rifle Pistol Association v. Bruen, the two major Supreme Court cases that we've had in the last 20 years on the Second Amendment, reign supreme, specifically the Bruen standard. And what will we say about the Bruen standard? What that means, text, history, and tradition reign supreme when deciding 2A cases. Now, I do want to put it out there for you who do not agree with the 2A world. When we talk about text, history, and tradition, and you're saying that's ridiculous, that is literally the same standard that all laws in the United States are held by. It's just that firearms were always carved out in a different way. So when it came to the First Amendment, in order to restrict the First Amendment, you would have to go to the text of the First Amendment, the history of that era that it was written in, to figure out whether or not that this restriction could stand. And if you couldn't prove that, and I say if you, the government on this restriction, could not prove that, then it was allowed, and whatever restriction you were trying to pass was ruled unconstitutional. Just take a look at here in Minnesota with the Minnesota Star Tribune versus, I think it was the United States, or no, it was versus somebody, I'll put that down below, back in 1986, where there was a tax on pen, ink, and paper specific to newspapers, and it was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court because, well, you know, the First Amendment allows them to promote and say things which you use ink and paper to do, for instance, and you cannot put extra exercise tax on those things, just like you can't do a poll tax or any other tax on a right, except for firearms apparently, but that's a subject for another video. Now, what are the implications of this case, though, when it comes to, say, Minnesota and other states that are attempting to pass magazine bans, like Virginia or even New Mexico recently, or for those states that have these magazine bans already? So the status of this case is just another feather in the Pro-2A cap that's going to eventually force the Supreme Court to rule on this. As these cases start cascading our way, and again, New York Rifle Pistol Association v. Bruen, the Bruen standard that the Supreme Court back in 2022, which was not that long ago, established, is something that's continuing to pop up and reign supreme, which shows the kind of landmark case that it was. We're even seeing this brought up by people that we would not necessarily think are on our side. Justice Brown Jackson recently in the Hamani case used this standard when she was questioning the government lawyers in that Hamani case when it came to marijuana users. These kind of cases continue to set legal precedents and further ingrain Bruen and other and magazine ban cases around the country into having to use common cases. And what will end up happening eventually, if the Supreme Court doesn't just take this up now, is there will be a circuit split at some point. Now, the Ninth Circuit, well, actually, I should back that up. There is a circuit split right now. It's not a circuit court in the sense of like the Ninth Circuit or Third Circuit. It would be the equivalent of a like the Minnesota Supreme Court, so the state Supreme Court. But it is still a federal district, so it is a federal court. This has put it in conflict with, say, the Duncan case out of California. So there is technically a circuit split right now. Now, this is a 3-judge panel. It certainly could be appealed en banc, meaning all 12 judges would hear it. And then from that point, depending on how that ruling comes out, then it could be appealed up to the Supreme Court. Or the Supreme Court could swoop in right now because the case is done. It has final judgment, you know, either pending appeal. And for us in Minnesota, we have seen this kind of restriction be attempted the last several years, 3 or 4 years now. We should get excited when we see cases like this go our way dealing with these issues because, like I said before, the pressure will build and it will force the hands of the Supreme Court at some point. They will have to rule on this one way or the other. They have kicked the can down the road for a while now, and it is time for them to step up and do the right thing and rule on this. And I do believe that the current makeup would rule in our favor. Now, what can you do for this case? Not much, because it is decided, other than support those who support you. It's very expensive to fight these things in court. So go out and, you know, donate to Gun Owners of America, FPC, NAGR, NRAILA here in Minnesota, the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, Second Amendment Foundation, and there's so many more that are out there fighting for your rights. There's a lot of great lawsuits going around when it pertains to the NFA or, of course, these magazine bans. There's assault weapon ban cases sitting before the Supreme Court right now, just waiting for them to conference them and make a decision where they're going to take them up. Justice Kavanaugh, I'm looking at you because you said you would in the next term or two, or in the next term. It's time that you do this. So we're interested to see where this is going to go. Now, be sure you continue to like, comment, subscribe to this channel. We're going to continue to bring you content each and every day. Well, I shouldn't make promise each and every day. I get busy. It's not like I can post every day, but we'll be bringing it to you each week. We'll be going to keep you up to date and analysis on what's going on, whether it be in the state of Minnesota, around the country, or in this case, federal court cases. If you do want updates each and every day, though, go check out our news section because we're constantly writing and we have articles, multiples coming out every day. There is so much news in the 2A world right now. It is insane. And again, couldn't do videos on all of them just because there's so much stuff out there. And then if you, again, want to go over and support us on Rumble, please do. That's where we can post some stuff. We're going to do something on FRTs and drop-in auto sears here in the near future that YouTube will not probably allow us to post. So therefore, it will be exclusively on our Rumble channel. But until next time, guys, keep your powder dry, keep tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.